Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the third episode of our Lupus mini-series. So this week I am answering the question which I hear so often is, how can I manage this pain? What can I do to get rid of all of this pain? And trust me, I have been there and I have felt the agony of living day to day with joint pain and muscle pain. So I totally understand where you are. If you are listening to this and you are feeling the effects of lupus, then I know exactly what you're going through. So what I want to talk about tonight is the various approaches to managing pain. And I don't mean, and I'm not going to be discussing medications, doses of prednisone, narcotics, or biologics. That is not my approach. But trust me, I have had to take prednisone and I was on Cellcept for a little while. And that managed me when I was in a very critical stage of lupus with multi-organ involvement. So that was somewhat controlled. And I was okay with that regimen at that time. But I knew that I didn't want to be lifelong on these medications to control my pain. My whole purpose was to find out why. Why did this happen? Why now? Why so suddenly? And what am I going to do to reverse this? And I did. And it took years of researching and testing things on my body in terms of supplements. I would try various diets and eliminating foods and so many things. And I would get my blood drawn. Like almost every 6 to 8 weeks, I'd go in, check my bloods. Okay. Did this help? Did this help? What are my levels now? As I was, reversing all of my nutritional deficiencies, which if you have a chronic illness, you definitely have deficiencies. So I want to start by talking about this pain, and it ranges from, well, at least for me, it was full body. Initially, it started just in my wrist and then my knees. But then it became full circle and it became full body. And not only were my wrists, both of them became involved, but so did my knees and then ankles and then feet and shoulders and elbows. I mean, it was like I couldn't move without feeling discomfort. I couldn't walk without feeling that. So I know that a lot of you are on some pain regimen. And I read this so much, this question of, what do you guys take to handle this pain? What do you take that's going to help with this pain? And the problem with a question like that, though legitimate, is we're not here for a Band-Aid. We're not here to try something that is just managing pain that we sort of don't know the source of necessarily. Like, why is it triggering the joints right now? Why is it triggering the muscles? And so I absolutely love to investigate why women get an autoimmune condition to begin with. that is my, like, I am like a kid in the candy store reviewing labs and all kinds of testing to figure it out. And through the years, I have found the most common reasons why women not only develop autoimmune, but why they actually experience so much pain. And the biggest thing behind pain is inflammation, right? You're inflamed. Your body's like on fire internally. Well, for me, my joints were hot. They were hot. They were red. My cheeks would get hot and they would get red. Even my scalp. I don't know if any of you listening felt this, but I had like my scalp felt achy. I couldn't touch it. And anytime I would, like, you know, when you like open your eyes really wide, like the movement of the skin on my scalp hurt. So one of the things that I learned was, okay, how do I decrease the inflammation? And I would say 95% of inflammation, let's say 90. There's a variety of reasons that contribute to inflammation in the body of someone that has an autoimmune condition. And one of them is gluten. Hands down, it is the thing that decreases inflammation once you remove it from your diet. 100%. There is no cheating when it comes to being off gluten. Now, I'm not saying that removing gluten, you will be totally better and fine, because though gluten was the thing that really helped me, I saw a difference in a week. But for others, it may take longer. For others, and for me too, it was a combination of things. It wasn't just gluten. And I actually did a DNA test, and I did have, and still do, have 2 gluten-sensitive genes. So I knew at that moment that I needed to remove gluten from my diet. But through the course of all of the lab work that I did on myself, ones that the rheumatologist never did, ones that my nephrologist never did, it uncovered so much. It uncovered chronic infections. It uncovered food sensitivities. It uncovered nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances. And that's all I did, is I spent my time reversing everything, healing everything, getting everything back into balance. But the biggest contributors to inflammation in the body is gluten and dairy. And if you're listening to this now, I would honestly recommend for you to eliminate it from your diet. And you may think like, oh my God, how can I be gluten-free? There's nothing that I'm going to be able to eat. That's not correct, because I'm a cook at home. I cook every meal, almost every meal, and delicious at that. I am not starving by any means. And it's as simple as replacing one box of pasta for another box of gluten-free pasta. And there really is no difference in the, flavor or texture. And replacing the bread too. And you can buy pie crusts that are gluten-free. You can buy muffins that are gluten-free. I mean, everything that you typically eat, you can find gluten-free in the supermarket. It's not that hard anymore because it's everywhere. When I became gluten-free, it was not really a big thing back then. And we're going back at least a good 13, 14 years. It was not big. Now there are restaurants that have gluten-free menus. You can buy stuff online from like Thrive Market. And that's where I would start, is that I would change my diet, eliminate those 2 things. And because our bodies are really, more and more people are reacting to gluten now these days with all the glyphosate and all of that. So removing that at least removes one trigger. Aside from that, I mean, I would start there. I noticed a big difference in between like 7 to 10 days. I noticed a major difference in my body. My knees wouldn't swell up anymore. My cheeks wouldn't swell and get really hot, because I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but man, I hated that feeling. It was like I would just touch my cheeks and I felt like I had a fever. But it wasn't like a sweaty kind of hot fever. It was just like an internal inflammation that would happen every time I consumed or had a bite of gluten. So what can you do for pain? And I know so many of you have like probably been on Percocets and oxycodone and all of those things, and those are temporary. I mean, you really don't want to be lifelong on those pills. And I don't really think that they work 100%. I mean, how many of you take these medications and actually feel like before lupus ever came into your life? I don't think that it's like this wonder drug that you're going to take, that you're going to feel 100% like yourself and feel nothing and feel amazing, and you can go run down the street or work out hard at the gym. Not likely. The chances are very slim. There is no health within those medications. Your body is not lacking Percocet. What it's lacking is for someone to be doing the appropriate testing to find out why you're having these issues to begin with. And everyone's so different. So for me, it sort of started with some GI issues. For someone else, it could be parasitic infection along with all kinds of other things in their gut. So it's so different for everyone. But if you want to start somewhere, I would remove gluten from your diet. I would Google it. It's not that hard. I have been doing it for so many years, over a decade. And let me tell you, I will never look back, because it is not worth having to feel the way I felt, even moving in bed, and, needing help to get off of the couch or needing help to get out of bed. And the minute my feet would hit the floor, it was like I could feel every single joint in my feet, and they would swell up. I mean, it was just awful. And I was taking 20 medications a day and I still felt like shit. So that's not the answer. We all know that so many of you who are listening who may have lupus right now, you're on a slew of meds. You're on pain medication, most likely. Is it helping you? Like, do you feel amazing? Probably not. So let's start there and see how you do. And be on the lookout, because I am coming out with something so amazing in the next couple of weeks. I have been just so amped up about this. I cannot wait to share it with you. It's going to be mind-blowing. So that's all for today, and I will speak to you all next week with another episode of our lupus mini-series. And if you would love for me to answer one of your questions, feel free to email me at info@margaretromero.com. Have a good night wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for listening. Be well, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.